I mean, for me, it's Le Mans. When I won it in 2020, I mean, the 2020 season was pretty impressive. We won the European Le Mans Series, we won the World Endurance Championship, and we won Le Mans. But quite often, if you win Le Mans, you win WEC. Le Mans weighted with double points, so it's quite common that the person that wins Le Mans, the team that wins Le Mans, win WEC. And to do all three was amazing. Caveat to that was it was during COVID, so.
Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of the Track Limits podcast. I'm your host Swish, joined by my co-hosts Effie and Henny. Today we have a really awesome guest, the youngest driver to ever finish in the top 10 at Le Mans, Phil Hanson. Welcome.
Yeah. You got the statistic right, because I think
yes.
I'm not the youngest driver to win. I'm not the youngest. I think I'm the youngest Brit to win, but yeah, I think they somehow managed to find a statistic that made it sound good.
I mean, that's incredible, regardless.
Seriously, not a lot can say that.
But I'm super excited. How are you doing though? Off season's been kind of fine. Is this an off season for you?
Yeah, pretty much. Obviously, our calendar is sort of similar to most racing calendars: March, April to November. Mm-hmm. Quite often we have winter series, so I'm doing what would normally be a winter series I'm kind of going there tomorrow for the Asian Le Mans series,
right?
In Pro-Am. But normally, that's in the past been from December, January through to February. But now they've realized that teams struggle to kind of get cars around in between the season with this normal season starting in March and April. But yeah, so I've had like a nice 3 months off. So it's been about as good as off season I've had for the last 5 years.
What were you doing?
A lot of training, a lot of fitness. It kind of dictates my life. It's a big part of my life. But I also spent lots of time abroad. You know, I went to Austria with my family, and then I took a small fitness camp to Norway recently. So yeah, I've really made the most of it this year.
Nice. Well, I mean, this podcast, we're going to go for about an hour, and we split up our podcast into Q1, which is all racing related questions, Q2, which is a little bit more about you off the track, who you are, how you kind of became who you are today. And then finally, Q3 is our rapid fire round. Yeah. We're going to pepper you with a bunch of questions. And
Q3 is always the hardest.
He is organized quite,
good questions.
Look at it.
Tough questions. But are you ready to get into Q1?
Yeah, 100%.
Perfect. Yeah. So tell us a little bit, and I think you kind of touched on it here with the training side, but what does the day-to-day life for Phil look like? And kind of maybe during the season and off the season as well.
Yeah. So in the off season, which kind of just ended, it was pretty much wake up, train. I have a morning session is normally predominantly cardio. I mean, it always is cardio. So it's about an hour long. Mix between interval and just strict steady state stuff. So I'll do that typically from between 10 and 11 starting, obviously an hour long, shower, change, then have my first like real meal of the day. I might have like a snack before then, but nothing serious. Then do anything I need to do in the day, like groceries, shopping, emails, whatever, you know, like normal stuff. Netflix will definitely have a role in that part. And then start to get the energy back for my second session, which is like basically just CrossFit.
Right.
So again, predominantly cardio based, but with a lot more strength exercises. And I try and steer away from hypertrophy, like too much muscle building, because obviously we're trying to stay light, hence all the cardio. But there's a lot of endurance stuff, a lot of strength stuff there too. So that's typically the day. Then I'll shower again. I find myself always showering these days because, I'm working quite hard, so sweating a lot. And then, dinner, I cook all myself. So that's the good thing about the pandemic for me is I actually learned how to cook.
Nice.
I mean, you're kind of forced to, because also where I live, there was no takeaways. Apart from like the small pubs in the area started doing takeaways, but by the time I caught on to that, like it was already too late.
Right.
So I was kind of forced to cook, which was a blessing in disguise, I guess.
Cool. That's awesome. And then in terms of up till this point, you know, in about 30 seconds or so, tell us, like, what are you the most proud about? Like, within your career, what were some defining milestones within your career?
I mean, for me, it's Le Mans. When I won it in 2020, I mean, the 2020 season was pretty impressive. We won the European Le Mans Series, we won the World Endurance Championship, and we won Le Mans. But quite often, if you win Le Mans, you win WEC. Le Mans weighted with double points, so it's quite common that the person that wins Le Mans, the team that wins Le Mans, win WEC. And to do all three was amazing. Caveat to that was it was during COVID, so the celebrations could have been better.
First person to do that, right?
Yeah, first person to win all three, and I think it was the youngest Brit to win any class at Le Mans. which is pretty cool. But
Oh, yeah.
I wouldn't trade it for anything, to be honest. Happy memories. I just wish I didn't have the mask on in all the photos. Because you never know, you might not ever win it again. It's one of the toughest races in the world. But yeah, that's kind of the goal. Next couple of years is to do it again. This time, hopefully, no mask in the photos. And yeah, it's been proven challenging. The last couple of years, we've had a lot of reliability issues and other things happen. I mean, last year wasn't a reliability issue, but we can get into that later. But yeah, that's definitely the highlight.
Yeah. And how do you go on to prepare for a race like Le Mans? What is your regiment there?
Yeah, I mean, well, Le Mans, I try and like peak my fitness around Le Mans. Obviously, it's the most important one.
Yeah.
I think I myself, like on the side of being too fit or easily able to do the other races, apart from some of the really hot ones if you get high temperatures in Sebring or in America. But then Le Mans is obviously the one that we're always training for. It's you can burn like sort of 7,000 calories in that 24 hours, and it's the limited sleep. It's hard to simulate. I'd say the best way to train for it is to do Le Mans, but you can only do it once a year.
As a spectator, it was tough.
Even as a spectator, right? You can barely sleep.
In 21, I was like at the motorhome. I just slept for like half an hour. I forgot that I was in Le Mans. You know, that split second.
Yeah.
I woke up 18 or some ridiculous amount of hours to go. I was like, when is this going to end?
Is this gonna end?
Yeah. And that's the thing. Like at Le Mans, what makes it so difficult is the lack of sleep and the fact that it doesn't end up being a 24-hour race. It ends up being a 32 hours worth of being awake. And also not just for us, for the guys, the mechanics, the engineers who wake up quite early that day, to start the race, doing all the meetings. We have to be there with a few hours to spare, obviously, for the inaugural presentation of the flag and things like that and media stuff. But yeah, it turns into a long old race. And before the year we won it, I used to sleep at Le Mans quite well. I used to sleep like a few hours, definitely a few hours. And a lot of drivers used to sort of say like, "Oh, I don't sleep. Like, I only get 10 minutes of sleep." And they go, "I only get 5. Like, what are you talking about?" What? And I used to be like, "Well, it's just like an ego measuring contest." Until like the year we were leading and we were fighting the whole. I genuinely couldn't switch off. I was like lying in bed, like knowing I had to sleep because I'm exhausted, and my heart's racing, the adrenaline's still pumping, and I genuinely didn't sleep at all that year. And I was like, well, I'm eating my words now because I've just been making fun of all these guys.
You did it.
Exactly. And that's the reality. You don't really want to sleep and wake up and then have someone wake you up, for example, and say you've had a mechanical issue, someone's crashed into you, which it happens, and you're more often going to get the heartbreak than you are going to get the success. And I'm a testimony to that because I think I've done it now 6 times and I've won it once, fortunately. But out of the other 6, no podiums.
Right.
Last year, for example, we were taken out in the first 6 seconds. It was the shortest Le Mans I've ever had.
Yeah.
And then a very, very, very long Le Mans thereafter, because it was 23 hours, 59 minutes, and 56 seconds of driving around. Honestly, because you see like 3 laps down, you're like, well, if you're really fast, it's like a lap round there is 3.5 minutes. So the leader needs to stop, pull over, have a burger for 11 minutes for us to get that time back. And we actually ended up finishing in the top 10.
Wow.
So it was a tremendous effort from everyone involved. But yeah, how you train for that, how you prepare, Le Mans is the only preparation. I try my best in what I can simulate, cardio side and trying to match heart rate zones that I might be, in a Le Mans physically. But mentally, nothing can prepare you really apart from doing it with the experience.
Yeah. Talking about like preparation, do you do sim
stuff? I have a sim at home, but I fell into that because of COVID. Everyone playing on iRacing, and I kind of picked it up and I spent loads of hours in there, and I found myself spending more time on the sim than I was training, and it kind of got in the way of things. And the sim stuff is interesting because a lot of like big name drivers that are super successful in motorsport are also quite successful on the sim racing. But then there's other drivers that are very successful and suck at sim racing. And I'm definitely one of those people that can't jump on a sim and
You're
be
not
very
the
good.
only one.
I'm not very good.
We've interviewed so many drivers. They're like, we hate
and because I'm so competitive, right? It's like, I don't want to do that. If I'm going to suck at it, there's no way. And like you stand in front of a screen, and I found it like, when I'm not racing, what can I possibly be doing to better myself in the car? And fitness is one of the things I've kind of lent towards. I find it really good for staying like competitive, especially when I'm out of the car. It sort of suits my personality because, I mean, most of the guys you'll interview are going to be super competitive because we're in this sport. But yeah, also like the mental training and all that sort of stuff. I think it's still pushing me forward in the right direction. And on the sim stuff, I feel like it's a lot of fun. Sometimes I struggle to correlate it back to actually helping the racing, because at the end of the day, the best thing we're using is iRacing, and we don't have the access to the technology that F1 has with their super impressive sims. So it's kind of, it's one of those, yeah. And because I'm not good at it, I'm not gonna like it anytime
Would you ever
soon.
do like a 24-hour online Le Mans?
I've been asked.
Yeah?
I've been asked. No, it's a short answer. I don't want to. I mean, I go through in real life, but then I can't imagine doing it. Yeah, just like. I mean, I'd rather play Call of Duty for 24 hours. It's like all the horrible parts of Le Mans without any of the rewards. That's kind of true. You know what I mean?
The possibility of disconnecting.
Yeah, imagine. Yeah, exactly. Waking you up, but this no one's crashed into you, or they could have. But yeah, short answer is no. I don't want to stare at a screen. I'd wear like blue light blockers or whatever you have, but yeah, no.
What about after Le Mans? Like, do you sleep for like 40 hours? Or so what does that look like?
Yeah, so when we won it, it goes by pretty quickly. Like, you lose a couple hours easily with photos of the team and getting your kit together, because you find out that there's like, you start off with your kit in the garage. It's always in that one place. By the end of the race, there's kit in the hospitality, there's kid in the motorhome, so you're trying to get it all together. And if you say, I remember saying to my dad, like, I'll leave in 10 minutes, it ended up being another hour before I found all my stuff, and I then left half my kit behind anyway. But by the time we get out the traffic's bad at Le Mans leaving, especially that night, all the fans are leaving. They think they get like hundreds of thousands of fans there. By the time I got back to the chateau, it was still daylight. I remember, I think I've got a video on my phone. I just sat at the table, and there's the winning car trophy, so bigger than the trophies that we get, the big trophy, right in front of me. And I think I ordered like all 3 meals that were on there, because I could eat what I wanted at that point. And my diet's, I'm quite strict for myself to make sure I don't put on too much weight. But I had whatever I wanted, had a beer, and then I just I was out of it. There was no celebrations that night. I went straight to bed, and I think I slept for 12 hours.
Wow.
I think it's even more draining when you win, because you have that rush of emotion, and then of course as soon as you come off that, it's pretty rough. And last year too, you just kind of come back and kind of collapse. And then I came back to England and saw my friends up until 12 o'clock when everything closes, because it was COVID. But yeah, that's basically it.
I saw the BBC interview you did as well.
I did that.
That's very cool.
Yeah, it was. My friends would downstairs at home. I think I had friends over basically the whole week then. We would celebrate in family friends rather than friends, I think. Yeah, and I think it was also delayed that year. It was in September. It was actually my sister's birthday.
On the day of?
Yeah, she hates me for, because I think both my parents forgot to wish her happy birthday that day. Instead, they were just sending her messages. Did you see what Phil did? But yeah, because it was delayed because they were trying to see if they were able to open up to fans. But I actually learned last year that Le Mans is held on the 24th weekend of the year, which kind of makes sense as the 24-hour race. That's why it's in June. I mean, I probably should have known that earlier. Yeah, exactly. I said it to lots of people as if I've known for years. And the reality is I only learned it last year.
Damn.
Now, our audience is probably more single-seater oriented. Now, in single-seaters, your teammate is labeled as your teammate, but it's your biggest rival.
Yeah.
But in endurance racing, you have to work as a team to
accomplish you do.
Something.
Yeah, exactly.
So how does that dynamic work?
It's a funny one, because you do still have that competitive nature because you're in the same car. So he's your first point of reference. So if one of you is not performing, it's going to be noticed because that other person is naturally exploiting you, because he's performing to whatever the car's capable of. So you have that element, but at the same time you need to work together, because if he's a weak link or if I'm a weak link, we're both going to get the same result. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So you have to work together. I think at this level, it's not like we're going to sit through data and look at data together, but making sure that we're comfortable in the right mind. We're not doing anything to irritate each other throughout the weekend, and you kind of bond a bit more. So you end up building quite a good relationship. I've been racing with Felipe Albuquerque now for the last, I don't know how many years, 4 or 5 years. So we have a really good relationship and rapport. Other drivers tend to change. So obviously in LMP2 you need a silver. I was once that silver many years ago, and now the silver's kind of changed. So it's getting used to how to bring on them, work with them a bit, like Felipe did with me when I was younger.
Yeah.
And you do end up building a relationship, and quite often the drivers stay in that community. So that community of friends that you have builds, and I think that's why people say that in endurance racing, typically you're friends with a lot of other drivers and other teams.
Yeah.
But I think that's also from a habit of having had teammates in other
Keep
teams,
moving, yeah.
having moved on to other teams and stuff like that. For example, Felipe races in America, and his teammate will race against us in WEC or whatever. So he ends up having a good relationship amongst those people. So it's a lot more lighthearted than I imagine you'd get in single seaters.
What about drivers that are going from single seaters to WEC?
Yeah.
Is there an element of struggle, or do they like?
I think there's an element of,
to-
I mean, I don't want to cut anyone short because I get on really well with a lot of the guys. But I think there's definitely an element of like different personalities. I don't want to say they're more arrogant, but there's definitely they've come from that single seater dream, the F1 dream.
Comes with the job.
Yeah, exactly. And it definitely takes them like a little time to adjust to how things are kind of different. That teammate nature you speak of is very different. And I think that's something that people adjust from. I actually haven't shared a car with someone that made that adjustment straight away, because Paul, I guess, was the last person to do that, and he was still racing DTM, so he was always kind of had a foot in the door of in the endurance side, or at least the sports car side. Yeah, Lando, but Lando was just that one race, and I was well with that outside my depth, because Lando had been, he was testing an F2 at that point. Fernando was 2-time world champion, and it was my first race in LMP2 with United.
How was that experience?
Yeah, that was crazy. But my memory of that weekend, sadly, was like limitations with the car and struggling with performance, rather than like actually like necessarily bonding with any of them. I got on fine with both of them. They're great guys, but yeah, it wasn't something. I mean, my biggest memory is just Fernando's debriefs, and we were struggling with this one like problem of like entry instability, like normal stuff when the car's not really connected and it's not working, like entry instability, mid corner understeer, exit oversteer, and that was like one of the things we struggled with. It was also difficult for the team because it was the first year we'd raced at Daytona, and you need a lot of experience to really go into Daytona and win it. And obviously the pressure was on because we had this really strong lineup, and the media spotlight was on us. So it wasn't easy. And like I said, it was the first race I was doing with United at that point. It's early in the year. I think it was a new Le Mans kit for that Ligier that we were racing. So that hadn't been tested. So we were trying to learn. We were on the back foot basically. But yeah, I think the catchphrase was undrivable in his nice Spanish accent. I'm not going to try and impersonate that. But I think one time we drove from the track around to do a media thing, and I let my imitation of him slip in the car, saying, undrivable, but it went down well. But yeah, those are my memories from it.
And is there a driver, whether they're retired or they're still current in the grid, whether it's in endurance or even in F1, that you look up to or take advice from currently right now?
I guess the closest thing to that would be Felipe, because I spent so much time with him and I can like fully trust him. But there's drivers, I managed to work with drivers of like a very high caliber, just from the nature of the sport and the fact that the team I race for tends to have very keen interest from top drivers. So anyone from like Felipe to Paul to Bruno Senna raced with me for a couple of races, and also raced in the sister car when we did Daytona. So I've actually managed to race with people that a lot of people might have on that list. So I don't necessarily have a list like that. Also, as I find myself now at a similar level, and pushing a lot of these guys, I'd like to think that, it hopefully one day will be me.
Mentoring others.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, no list as of yet. I think that's probably because I was exposed to these great drivers when I was younger. I think if you asked me that when I was at Daytona, I would have said like Fernando and Lando or whatever.
And then in terms of, and this might be a stupid question, but how do you guys pick like who goes in the car first and like what the rotation looks like? Is that something that's decided upon like months before based on some sort of test or training camp or something?
So at least with our team, it's normally performance based.
Right.
So it's whatever they're thinking. But it's not always performance based. So you're more likely to get safety cars at the start of the race. So sometimes you start the weaker driver with the slower driver. Typically that's the case. But other times you might start a pro or me or Felipe might start because we might have more experience. It might be the first race of the year. It might be a longer endurance race where you're expecting less safety cars or the safety car to have less impact on that race. So therefore you go with a safer option. I guess you can call it a safer option, starting me or Felipe. The year when we won, I didn't start any race in WEC. The year we won ELMS, the same year, I started every race in ELMS. So it kind of fluctuates. Last year we had a mix between Felipe and our silver there, Will, he started. And yeah, but anything can go wrong. Like if you look at
do you prefer certain year. Like do you prefer starting?
Starting's great.
Yeah,
starting's also great for all the averages and data because it's like, especially now the cars are so slow, it's like 20 laps clear.
Yeah.
And normally obviously an endurance race and the traffic has a big impact. So starting is great. Starting and finishing, I think the middle stint is normally the heavy lifting and not much reward. But the cool thing about it is now with all the data that we have, you can kind of singularity, like you can basically filter out all the variables and see what you were like lap on lap on lap against people on track at the same time as you, with the same traffic scenarios as you. You can also, the other thing is if someone's 5 seconds ahead, you could be catching that car at the wrong point every lap.
Yeah, right.
He might have a similar story in his car, but sometimes from your point of view, he's getting it much easier and stuff like that. I had this in Fuji actually. Like if I was catching traffic 2 seconds ahead, I would have just cleared them before the third sector, and because I wasn't able to, it meant that I was having to defend throughout the whole third sector, because as soon as you defend one, you have to defend the subsequent 3 or 4, 5 corners. But you have this, it always goes around. You have these stories from everyone. Everyone likes to complain about traffic. Any engineer will be a testament to that.
Yeah.
Talking about your team, we talked about your team, obviously. Your team owner, co-owner, I should say, is Zach Brown. Obviously, our viewers probably are familiar with him. What's he like on a day-to-day basis?
We don't see him that often. It's actually surprising how many races he does come to, as well as doing some historic stuff. I know of with the team. He races in Laguna or wherever the other historic events are. I'm not that familiar with it. So, but yeah, really nice guy. Works well with Richard. Richard Dean's the other co-owner. Richard's much more hands-on with the team. So I see much more of Richard than I do of Zach. But yeah, super, super nice guy. Very, very charismatic. Like you get the same personality that you do kind of across the F1, but I guess it's that little bit pressure released, off him when he comes to sort of our races, because he's there as like a co-owner and he's less like managerially involved. So he's kind of enjoying it, but the guy works pretty hard. Like he's always got meetings, he's always on his phone. I think anyone at this level, even Richard, they're flat out with meetings. And so even when he's at the track, we might not see him very often. He might not be in the garage for FP1, FP2, FP3. He might not even be in the garage for most of the race, just because he's got tons of business calls. But yeah, he's super nice. I mean, everyone in that environment is very nice. I think that's one of the things I think you need to rely on in racing is a really good network of people inside the teams, because it is predominantly a team sport. And I think that's something you get more of a gist of in endurance racing, because the fact that we're doing 30-something pit stops at Le Mans, and it's a lot of work for these guys. And in F1, I think it sometimes gets brushed under the carpet how much commitment these guys actually have. Like even time away from the 23-week race weekends a year, like it's a long time away for these guys.
Oh yeah.
What about the car collection of Zach back at the factory?
Yeah, that's cool. So every time I go up there's a new car, or there's a car I haven't seen before, or there's a car I haven't seen in that state because it's getting rebuilt.
Right.
And kind of as you come into the factory, it's like in your face, which is great. I mean, not as you enter, but as you go into the workshop. So where I would be.
Is there one car that is like your favorite from his collection?
I've sat in a few of them. I can't lie. I the last time I was there, I think I sat in. I'm gonna get it wrong. I think it was Mika Häkkinen's McLaren.
No way.
He's got obviously he's got Senna's Marlboro.
Yeah.
I think it might even be the Monaco race winning. I'm not 100% sure, so don't hold me to that.
Yeah.
But that's the car.
Iconic.
That is the F1 car that everyone knows, right?
Yeah.
So there's that. It's even Senna's go-kart there. There's like
Wow.
bunch of you know, like I think there's a Porsche 9 something. And you know, there's the Can-Am cars. He's got rally cars. He's got everything. And because they're being driven, and because he races them as well, you see them in states you've never seen before. Like some of the Indy cars he has, like Andretti Indy cars. That's unbelievable to see. They look like really long, distorted F1 cars. And you talk to some of the guys working the historic stuff, and you know, about the ethanol fuel that they have to use in that. It's like if you leave any part of it, it starts corroding the car. Like all these like things you just wouldn't consider. But yeah, that's really cool. Also means you have something to like distract you when you're up there doing a seat fit and your teammates taking ages. Just walk around, ask politely if you can sit in some cars.
Have you, and I'm curious about this because obviously you went into endurance at such a young age. Did you ever have that goal of F1? Like, did you ever want to go through the Formula categories?
I mean, when I was young in go-karting, yeah, like the F1 dream was like ripened throughout everyone in the field. Everyone just thinks they're going to F1.
Yeah.
But I actually never got given the opportunity because we were kind of wrongly guided early on in my career. It was a happy mistake because I actually found myself in this position now, which I'm super fortunate to be in, with endurance racing being like in the next couple of years the biggest it's ever been, hopefully. You know, with a handful of manufacturers, I think up to 10 manufacturers coming in, all with 2 cars, lots of money pouring back in, the most opportunities ever for any driver, but also the most interest ever for all these drivers coming from IndyCar and F2 and endurance, LMP2, all these guys. So I'm happy to have been where I am. I think maybe my development might have been a bit quicker and easier if I'd gone down the single-seater route. But you can get so sucked into that world. And from what I hear from people that have been there and done that and got to F2 and had sort of contracts on the table for F1 and the money that's involved and all the politics, it's off-putting, to be honest. And there's enough politics as it goes in motorsport. And I don't think I would want exposure to any more than I already have. And I'm fortunate enough that staying with one team for a lot of the time, I've avoided a lot of this stuff.
Yep. Great. Final question of Q1. What are your kind of objectives from a kind of 2023 standpoint?
To win.
To win.
Win everything.
Honestly, it sounds sort of silly and potentially arrogant to say, but having won Le Mans, I have absolutely no interest in finishing second or third. It just seems like such an insult to stand there with a slightly smaller trophy and being beaten by someone, especially when I know exactly what it takes to win Le Mans. And for the last couple of years, I felt we've had all the ingredients. We've had a fast enough car. We've had a good driver lineup. The team hasn't made any mistakes. We've had a couple small mechanicals, but a lot of it wasn't down once the forensic analysis was done, basically, from these teams to figure out what the cause was. It wasn't stuff that we could really avoid. It was like failures of things that weren't even, that were new. They'd passed their sort of mortality rate. Because you can put a new part on, it can fail straight away. So we put a new part on, do a little bit of mileage, get comfortable with it, take it back off, then put it back on for the race. And it was stuff like that would fail. And we've got, the team have got super in-depth procedures now to make sure that these things don't happen again. And we're not seeing repeat things happen. We're seeing, slight changes, slight variations happen, and we're getting close. I think winning this year is basically the only goal in everything.
Love it.
Bold.
Absolutely love it. Well, that was Q1. Henny, verdict?
That was a good green sector.
Green sector? All right. Effie,
what do you think?
Green,
What does it take to be purple? I mean,
room for improvement.
Henny's a bit tough.
I'm a tough judge.
But it's fine. We'll see if you try to get a purple in Q2. Right. But we'll stay tuned, guys, for Q2 coming up. Welcome back, guys, to the Track Limits podcast. We're here with Phil Hanson. We're getting into Q2 now. So Q2, we're going to dive a little bit into you as a person. Ready to go?
Yep.
Purple? Come on.
I'm feeling it.
Yeah. So let's take you back a little bit. I want to know a bit more about the origin story in terms of, let's even talk about your family. Did they encourage you into racing? Was it something you always wanted to do growing up? Like, when did you kind of catch that bug?
I think it was just like most people, like go-karting. On holiday in Spain, I think it was the first time I went go-karting as a kid. No one in my family actually had done it or done it to a level. Pretty much done it at all. I think my dad's a good driver on the road, but most of our arguments come from driving, to be honest. He hates my driving, I hate his driving. vice versa, I'm a really bad passenger. So, but yeah, karting. When I was in Spain, sort of on holiday, but then I actually started quite late. I started when I was sort of 13, predominantly because I was trying to pick up other sports at the same time, like still, football, the basic sports that you get in England. And then just delays through trying to find a go-kart team, making that step between sort of your pay and play places that people normally start at. There was like a race every last Sunday of the month there. And I started to get better and better and better and started to win some races, but then started to get hit off, and there wasn't like any licensing or any like stewards or any of that sort of stuff. And then as you make a step into like the world of go-karting, the racing, I mean, that's like a whole thing in itself, really. There you have, you have race licenses, you have stewards, you have clerk of the course, you have marshals, you have all that sort of stuff, and then sort of professional teams running these operations, and you have a mechanic, and you start to understand that. And that's when the racing really started for me. But there was a long time between sort of having the interest and actually then racing, getting a license, and all that stuff. And I was in racing in the UK. I never raced in Europe, apart from a couple of times in the World Championship in X30. But I had no success there. I think in the junior stuff, I think I had one bad heat and didn't make the cut for the final. And then I think came second in the B final, but there was no progression. So like me and the top two were like faster than everyone in the final, or equal lap times, but we couldn't. I think that was in the following year. They had that progression. By that time I was in the seniors, and again I think that engine exploded in one race, and then you're just nowhere. But yeah, I was able to win Super 1 in the UK, which was the British Championship, in quite an easy year, I'm not going to lie. In case someone was to go back and look, there weren't many people taking part, but better than that than finishing second in that year, to be honest.
Right.
So I won it. And then we just made a step to cars, really. And like I said, guided like wrongly in the first few years, but it all ultimately worked out.
And then in terms of, traveling, I'm guessing that's a big part of your life, obviously.
Yeah.
How do you deal with that? Like,
I just started traveling like solo when I was young, when I was sort of 16, because I started car racing at the right age. I mean, now it's getting even younger, but at that point, very young, like 16, 17. Traveling on my own, traveling with the team. I was it matured me a lot, to be honest, especially the go-karting. Most sports tend to sort of invoke discipline and stuff to people. But racing, especially being around people that are older than you, having different characters, learning how to deal with different people, that really matured me a lot quicker than I think just normal day-to-day life. The fact that I was able to sacrifice what for me was a lot, which was like parties and friends' birthdays and that sort of stuff, and then sacrifice the drinking culture and all that sort of stuff. Part played a role with discipline, and probably played a role with why fitness is such a big part of my life now. And the traveling, like obviously a lot of these races are abroad. All of them are abroad, actually. We don't have a race in the UK. And a lot of people actually ask me like, oh, you get to see like the world. It's like, no, I get to see every airport, every hotel next to the racetrack, and every racetrack. Apart from when we race in Japan, because of time difference, it's a 14-hour flight. You're not often going to go to Japan. We don't test in Japan. I normally make a trip of that because I find Tokyo pretty sick. And I mean, if you're out there, I try and extend for a couple of days, and sometimes I come back the other way around the globe. My sister lives in LA, so I can go that way around. I have an excuse at least, because I can't really say to like, my family or friends, I'm like, I'm going to go to LA. They were like, what for? Like, you're meant to be preparing for a race. Like, just to see my sister.
I mean, we usually ask this question to a lot of the drivers, saying, what is your work-life balance? But most of them are like, we don't have one because we're racing all year long. What does that look like to you? And how do you mentally prepare when you are during the season or off season?
Well, I mean, even during the season, like this year, I have 4 races, 4 weeks in a row, which is quite a lot. But then I also have races, 2 weeks off, a summer break, which is like nearly a month long. So you actually have a lot of time off. And even in between the races you do, which is great when you're winning. It's really bad when you're losing, because you have that week just to think about what your performance is. There's no hiding, like I said with the data earlier. If you've had a bad performance, and everyone can see it, and there's no shying away from it, and you kind of feel a bit embarrassed, or you've had a great performance, in which case the success is great. And unfortunately, if I win a race, for example, the buzz might stay for a day. If I lose that race, is staying until the
For a
next
week.
race,
Right.
and you got to hope that race is coming next week, because otherwise you just you're swallowed up by that emotion. But also because of that sort of drive to want to perform, want to improve, even when you're in a race, you can see really in-depth data on how to improve and what areas you kind of were weak on, especially throughout the weekend. It may not have been in the race where you're weak, but FP1, FP2, quali, whatever it may be. So there's a lot of time off to look at that.
Yeah.
That then I sort of partner up with my fitness and stuff to make sure that I'm staying motivated and hungry. I know like a lot of people have different routines. There's no like set one thing.
Yeah.
For me, like if I have a bad race, I'll go home and train really hard, try and
Punishment.
yeah, kind of. If I have a good race, I'll go home and train.
Yeah.
Because I'm already preparing for the next one.
Yeah.
So that's like kind of, it's become a big part of my life. And even if I wasn't racing for whatever reason and had done something else, I'd like to think it would still be a big part of my day-to-day life. But yeah.
What about mental fitness? I think you publicly said that you use Headspace, for example. Like,
I've used a few things
Yeah.
like that. And I found like at a certain point you need to figure out for yourself.
Mhm.
I've seen a few sports psychologists in the past too.
Yeah.
I found that really interesting. Again, there's that sort of dependency that sometimes you kind of grow into, and that part worries me a bit. So I took a step back from it and figured out how to do it myself. Not that I haven't ever had an issue with that, actually. It was just an area where I thought, I haven't looked at this. It could be a performance game potentially down the line. Maybe it's not tangible, but you never know what's going on in your head. Ultimately, motorsport is a skill sport with a fitness element. The mental side of it, I think I'm best at by putting myself into mental challenging situations. So even something as simple as like cold water immersion, ice bath, things like this, super good for your mental health. Tough training, like voluntary punishment, like punish yourself after a bad race, like yeah, that's where the mental strength really comes. But again, it's something different for everyone.
Yeah.
It works for me, might not work for you, and definitely doesn't work for some of my friends.
Yeah. I mean, we did a Baltic Sea cold
Crazy.
plunge in
Yeah.
Finland,
In Finland.
and
Yeah,
that was fantastic.
Yeah,
that
it's
was on a
crazy,
weekend.
right?
Yeah.
We came out and our friend was Finnish and we were like, it's not cold enough.
Yeah, we were like, I
Yeah.
need to get it colder.
Because in Toronto, we go to like ice baths a lot and they make those like
Freezing.
Yeah,
like
yeah.
minus something.
it's amazing what like mind over body can do,
Yeah.
because when you get in, your like body goes into shock.
Oh,
and
yeah.
you just think about getting out. And
Yeah.
once you relax, it's actually not so bad.
No.
Mhm.
Yeah, but I say that the first 20 times I did it.
Yeah, I was
You
like,
jumped
yeah,
out.
Yeah.
That's awesome. And then when it came to specifically, dealing with failure and like feeling those moments where maybe you got out of the car and you were like, oh my God, I failed at my job, right?
Yeah.
I think every
Yeah.
professional can relate to that.
Yeah.
How do you bounce back in the sense of like, yeah, you said you train harder, but like, do you ever feel like you also let your emotions get the best of you, or have you kind of toned that down
In
as
the
you've gotten
past,
older?
definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Mhm.
But that's all part of the learning process. And I've got really good people behind me that believe in me, believe in what I'm doing, and can kind of help me with that side of things. So like my dad's been instrumental in my career and like supporting me both financially and like off season mentally, applying all the right advice with the right amount of knowledge of racing, which is very little. Because if you know someone who grew up in a family of racing, you end up just talking about racing the whole time. The fact that my dad didn't, and he looks at it from the outside, and now obviously understands a lot about it, but still likes to have this kind of naive view on things, makes him look at it from a perspective that I really appreciate, because he's so disconnected from it at times.
Yeah.
Mhm.
That, as well as having like a really good group of friends. I know a lot of drivers have like motorsport mates. So do I.
Yeah.
But to be honest, most of the time I spend away from the racetrack, I don't really talk to them. I have like a friendship group that's completely non-motorsport related, and I find that balance really key for like you said, my mental health bouncing back after a bad weekend. Not to see them and most of them will be like, "How was the race?" I'll be like, "Good," and I'll be like, "Great, cool. What should we watch? Yeah. What should we go? What do you want to do?"
Yeah.
Like they're not really going to ask those questions, and I find that super key. Like I would be really overwhelmed if like my whole circle revolved around racing. When a lot of people can manage that, but for me personally, that'd be a big no.
Talking about like bad results, bad races, I want to talk about like the crashes.
Yeah.
So I have a funny story of me. This is a weird segue, but I have a funny story of me just falling out from a boat, and even though it's like a few seconds, it felt like a few minutes.
Yeah.
So does it also feel like that?
Definitely.
Like what goes through?
Goes into slow motion.
Yeah.
That's definitely like, I haven't had, touch wood, I haven't actually had that many big crashes, but when it does happen, it either feels really fast or really slow.
Wow.
I think the moment they're like, oh, I can't really swear, but
Oh no, you can.
I can, you know, fuck moment.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That's like that's like a long kind of like, you just feel your body clenching up and like you're waiting for the impact. But then once you hit whatever, it all then happens really fast. At least that was my experience. I wrote a car off in Thailand. It's probably the furthest place to write a car off on a test day once in 2017, I think. And yeah, just that corner's flat. Sure, okay. Didn't prepare the corner enough. Ran wide, loads of runoff. I was like, just stay flat and come back on the track. So I did that. As I came back on, I bottomed, and I lost the car coming back on the track flat out.
Yeah.
I just like skipped and just the car basically snapped on me. And then when it gripped up, I was now facing like the inside of the track, which never has like tires.
Oh no.
And like I was fine, the car was destroyed, but luckily it was the perfect way to go, and it was like front left, rear left, and just spun around and just destroyed all the corners. The most expensive way to crash, but the best way to crash because you're just losing energy. But in that moment with my like arms crossed, like locked up, now looking left, and I was meant to be looking right, like the track's going that way, but now the car's this way. That moment was like slow motion because I'm like this.
You're bracing.
But then as soon as I made contact with the wall, it all sped up.
over.
Yeah.
There's like a viral clip I think going on right now. I forgot which motorsport it is, but there's like two drivers in the front, and they get off the road and crash, but they're having like a full-on conversation.
You see the rally clip. Yeah.
Full on, and they're just casual. They're like, "Oh man, we missed that."
Well, indeed you did.
Yeah.
I think there's also like a rally clip of like an Indian rally. like
that
Giro.
is so funny.
It's like I can't remember his name,
It
like
was like,
Benji
Johnny,
or something.
you're not turning
You know
right.
exactly. Yeah. Guys just
You're
missing
going
all the
left.
corners. Like
Yeah. And is there like another position if you were in a racing team, like, but besides being a driver, is there another position you think you do well at?
To be honest, I never really thought about it.
Right.
It makes me anxious to think
Yeah,
about
to think
it, to be
about
honest. I'm not sure, because also like I see what the team have to put up with, and I just think it's, I mean, I try and be as easy as I can, but I'm not a princess in any way, but there's so many issues, even like working with the organizers sometimes can be very difficult. Yeah, all of that doesn't appeal to me because I see the worst of it all the time. I've got full respect for people that can do things that I can hand on heart say I don't have the qualities and skill level to do, whether that's engineering and there's super smart guys there, or people that are incredibly patient on the managerial side that can work with these issues that seem so binarily obvious, and they're having to deal with people that just won't see it in the same light. Maybe driver management's the only thing you can kind of get to, but I mean, what am I going to talk about? Like,
do you think 2020 Le Mans you winning was your I made it moment, or are you still waiting for it?
No, I don't think it was. I think there's been a few like I've made it moments, but there've been small successes, not always when we've won. Times when I've really performed well have been when we haven't won. There've been super strong races of mine that I've thought like, that's a good performance, like today you did well, but sometimes it doesn't always result to victory. I'm still waiting for that, and I think the last couple of years I've hoped for that, but we haven't managed to tie up not this last season, the 2021 season. We were leading before Le Mans. I was performing great, the car was great, everything was fine. We had an issue at Le Mans, off points, didn't really recover through the rest of the season with points. Was still in the hunt for it, but we weren't strong enough in the last two rounds, and we just ended up finishing fourth, I think. Had that have gone differently, that might have been that year. Last year, we had everything that could have possibly gone wrong, went wrong in that year. I made mistakes. My teammate made mistakes. we had a slow car at some races. We had a reliability issue at some races. We got hit off in some races. And normally that happens once. We had all of that.
Yeah.
I think we finished like 7th or 11th or something.
Yeah.
As soon as as soon as you're far enough down, I was like, I don't really know.
Don't really care. Yeah.
But at a certain point, we were like looking at the data and we're like, we've led nearly all the laps, most of the laps this year. Because a lot of the times when we'd have these horrible results, we were leading half or more of the race. So again, like really strong performances, but if you're just looking at the results table, they weren't there. So big push this year, I think.
We're gonna manifest it for you.
Yeah, hopefully.
What about any rituals?
Oh, you know what? I had some really weird ones.
That's
Like,
good.
are you talking like pre-race rituals or like
Any? I know like some drivers only jump in the car from
like
a side.
superstitions?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I had like a bunch of weird ones.
Really?
But like things that didn't make sense. Like, it's embarrassing for me to say. Like I wouldn't want to refuel my car before the race. So I would sometimes turn up to the race. I wouldn't really tell anyone this. I wouldn't even tell my teammates this, who were like relying on me as a journey into the car. In the hire car, I wouldn't refuel it. We'd like turn up and like nearly run out of fuel. And we actually ran out of fuel at Le Mans, and we had to fill up the hire car with race fuel to get back because I didn't want to fuel it. I don't know why. In my mind, if I fuel it, we're going to finish second or third or worse.
Oh my god.
And then obviously it doesn't make any sense. And I don't know why I convinced myself of this. And I'm not normally that superstitious. And then obviously I was like, well, I think we're going to win this weekend. And I was like, I'll just refuel it and see what happens. And then we did. We won. This was like a couple of years ago. And we won the last round of ELMS. And we were really strong all weekend. And I was like, well, that's the superstition. It was so silly. Like, who would think that? And so basically since then, any superstition I had, I've gone out my way to break, wait on a good result, because there were some really weird ones. Like, I mean, that's like just illogical, right? But like getting in the car, I always jump getting in the car. I want to do something just like get my heart beating. I worry about just like some people worry about adrenaline dumps, like when your adrenaline's too high and you dump in the car. I worry about not getting my adrenaline up enough.
There yet.
So I always jump before getting in the car. I don't know why I do it.
Just like jumping.
Sometimes I forget. Just jump like as hard as I can. Few jumps until I feel good. But what like that happens, not as a form of warming up because I've already done that. But like just before I get in the car. So helmet, hazard device, seat insert, whatever. Gloves on. Always makes for a cool photo if the cameraman sees it, because I'm just in the air and everyone else is still on the ground. But yeah, that's something I guess I would do, but not religiously, because I'm trying to get a grip after that whole fueling incident.
I remember seeing that like on your stories, like you pulled the whole like the rental car into the paddock. I think it was the year I was there. I was like, how
we had to drive it like down to the paddock and like right up to the garage. Luckily we were in one of the first garages, so we had our own entrance. And we just like stopped it, and luckily we called the guys, and there were some guys still there, and it didn't explode on the way home, so it was good.
And what do you feel like you're as competitive about outside of racing? Like, is there anything that every day. Chess?
I mean, I try and like I'm quietly competitive.
Okay.
But like my friends that know me really well can like tell.
Yeah.
Like I'm just competitive about the really silly things.
Cool. Call of Duty.
Is it cool though? Or is it really annoying?
Cool. I mean, like I like that.
I think everyone has that.
Yeah. Like,
but also I'm realistic. Like if it's something I'm bad at, I'll be humbled by it. If I'm seeing improvement, great. If I'm not seeing improvement and my ego's hurting, there's a point where I'm quitting, right?
What about backgammon?
Backgammon, I'm competitive. Any like game like that, but I'm not going to cry about it if I lose. But I'm just going to keep a mental note that I lost, and then if I beat you, then three other occasions, I'll just be like, okay, it doesn't matter. I've lost this one time, because ultimately this year I've come out on top. But I'm not going to tell you that, right? Because I don't want to seem like a complete psychopath.
Diary.
I love that.
Or like Sudoku, Sudoku. Sometimes I do it to pass the time. And I was really embarrassed playing with my friend's sister. And we were meant to be doing it together, and I hadn't realized we were meant to be doing it together. I was like, "Well, don't help." And she's like, "What?" I was like, "Well, how do you then know how quickly I've done it? If you help, it's unfair." And she was like, "Oh, like you want it as a competition?" I was like, "Well, how else are we going to do this?" So there's that.
I love that. And what are some of your kind of hobbies outside of work? Like, what do you genuinely do if it's not racing? Like, tennis or another sport or
Yeah,
hiking?
like in this off season, like
Yeah.
especially when I like can attribute it to fitness and stuff. Like I picked up cross country skiing. That's something was humbling, like really humbling, because I went to Norway and they have some of the best cross country skiers there, and I had some guides that were. One of them told me, he was in the top 3 in the junior stuff. When he went to the senior stuff, he's competed against in the Norwegian Cups and stuff against Olympians. And he says, you're struggling to get into the top 50. I'm like, yeah, well, top 50 of the top guys at the Olympic, and it's all quite tight. Like, the other thing, if you're the best Norwegian cross-country skier, you're going to be in the top 5 in the world, pretty much, given the level that's out there. And we're doing some very challenging routes, long climbs. We're out there for 3 hours a day. And I'm like, this is a fitness camp for me. It's just like, I've never done like endurance work quite like this at this intensity with these muscle groups that are working. And it's also nice to be out in the cold and have the great scenery and like look good on Instagram and all that sort of stuff. But then it was humbling when he was like, yeah, no, this is great tempo. Like, it's really good for me. I'm like, yeah, well, I'm an athlete. And he's like, yeah, it's a really good recovery ride for me. It's a really good recovery session for me. I'm like, what do you mean? I'm like, and the guy was super humble and low key. It's like, yeah, no, it's a really good tempo. Like, the perfect recovery, and I'm there like dead, just absolutely destroyed. Like, and he's like, no, like your form's good. It's like, good, you just called it a recovery, like. But yeah, humbling. But I could see improvement, and the fitness was really useful and great. But yeah, like they're very, very fit.
I can already see you writing your diary next year. I'll come back.
Next year I'll come back. Same route. I'm going to improve by like 10 minutes.
He still calls it a recovery.
Or like, actually, before I was in Austria doing cross-country skiing, but this was when I was on a family holiday, and I had an instructor, a guide, who was in the World Cup, but she was a woman. And we did this route, and it was like an 18K route, and there was quite a few climbs, especially the last like 1 or 2K. It's like basically just a climb. And I'm like, how fast have you done this? Because the day after, I was like, I'm going to smash that time. And she's like super efficient, actually quite short, which is like kind of rare for cross-country ski. But like when she glides, like she's like so efficient. I'm there like taking an extra step every 3 steps just because and she's like 1 hour, 18 minutes. And I'm there and I'm like, I did it like 1 hour, I think she said 1 hour 14. And I did a 1 hour 22. And I was like, I could have done a 120. I would just told myself I could have done 120. I was like, and I believe that I told myself, we're having lunch with that. I'm telling him this as well. The poor guy's having to listen to me justify. He's like, and I believe that the men and women times are pretty similar. And it's like, what are they? And I'm like, well, I don't know. What should we use? He's like, why don't you look at the Olympics? He obviously actually didn't know. He was just, it's like, so I looked at the Olympics, and the men's 50K sprint was faster than the women's 30K sprint. So me telling myself that I was basically the same, obviously that's a massive genetic, gender difference. So I should have been way quicker. If it was a guy, like again, recovery pace.
Recovery pace, man.
Yeah. Humbling.
Well, I love that. I think that wraps up Q2. Henny, verdict here?
Okay, what should we give?
Recovery pace?
Give him the purple, man.
Purple?
Purple. There we go. There we go.
I'll send you my invoice.
Yeah, please do.
All right, well, stay tuned. We're coming back for the rapid fire round. Well, welcome back to the Track Limits podcast. We are now getting into Q3, the rapid fire round. Ooh. Very much looking forward to this. We'll see if we can get another purple here.
Yeah, you got to end it up with a purple.
Yeah, you got to, right?
Yeah.
All right, here we go. First question, Phil. If you had to choose one track to race on forever, which one would it be?
Spa.
Yes. Let's go.
Let's go. Love that track.
It's one of our favorites.
Yeah.
If you had to choose one format to race forever, what would it be?
What do you mean, like formats?
Like what? Like
endurance?
Endurance.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah. You get so bored of like just endurance. You can pass so many more cars. So many more things can happen.
There you go.
Where would you want to race if you had the other racetrack somewhere?
So as well as Spa, so adding on to it, or you mean like on the calendar?
Yeah.
Ooh.
Not like an existing one, like just like a
build a racetrack somewhere.
Add somewhere.
I don't know. Somewhere in Scandinavia or somewhere like that, somewhere cold. I feel like we don't race in many cold locations.
No, not at all.
You're gonna need your phone for this one.
Okay, my phone's over there actually.
Oh no. All right, Could we grab it quickly?
Yeah. It's behind you. Yeah, sorry about that.
No worries. There we are.
Cameo. What do I need for it?
Who was the last person you texted?
My girl mate, Hello.
Lovely.
Shout out.
Yeah.
All right, I'm about to show you a photo.
Yeah.
This is you guys winning last year. What was going through your mind? Or not last year, sorry, 2020.
Yeah.
There you are. You guys on the podium.
Honestly, the mask situation that
Yeah.
No, you know what actually was going through my mind?
Yeah.
I'm holding my trophy up with two hands. My teammates are holding it with one hand. It's light enough to hold up with one hand. The photo is going to look weird.
Yeah.
That was going through my mind. I swear to God. And then, you know what they did? I went to one hand, they went to two.
Oh.
And it's
Come
funny.
on.
Genuinely, that's what was going through my head. And then it was Zach going, there's only 3 bottles up here, motherfucker. That one's mine. Yeah, and then there's another photo later on of 3 of us with 3 massive, like, double magnum champagne bottles and him just in the corner. Like,
We're so
Yeah.
putting that on.
I love
yeah,
that.
definitely.
What regulation change would you add?
Bring it back to 2020 when it was way faster. Honestly, we're like 5 seconds slower.
Wow.
Yeah, no one wants that, honestly. I mean, I understand why I'm behind the changes for hypercar, but I don't want to be going slower.
Fair enough. Which driver would you trust to drive you around a track blindfolded? Like they're blindfolded.
I mean, Felipe,
Okay.
but we nearly die every time we go to the track. Like, you guys are a lunatic. We nearly rolled once in a higher car lap at Barcelona. He thought he could take the sausages, like the big
the
ones, like the Porsche Cup do, and we just car nearly rolled over. But his instinct wasn't to correct. His instinct was to hold it on 2 wheels for a bit longer. I was like, "What are you doing?" I mean, it would happen all very fast, but yeah, him. Although it sounds a bit backward.
Yeah.
The greatest driver of all time.
I think there's a great in every generation. I don't want to say there's one because everyone gets beaten at some point.
Yeah.
Senna to Schumacher to whoever, Alonso was the great, and then Hamilton came in and Max came in. So there's a great in every generation.
Your daily car.
Range Rover. Yeah.
What's the most overasked question you get?
Then what, like in motorsport? The most annoying one I get is when people are like, "You're a racing driver." I'm like, "Yeah," and then like F1, and I go, "No," and I go, "This is going to be a long conversation."
Yeah.
And then I go like, "This, this a long thing called Le Mans, 24 hours." And if they haven't had Le Mans, it's like a game over.
Yeah.
And then like there's 3 drivers like, "Oh, I've had like you guys all drive the car at the same time." I was like, "No, like we don't just have 3 pass the steering wheel across."
Yeah.
I've had that one quite a few times, and
Yeah.
it's like crazy to me.
Thank God for Ford versus Ferrari though.
Yeah, so literally,
Yeah.
it's racing driver, F1, no. Have you heard of Le Mans?
Yeah.
No. Have you watched Ford vs. Ferrari? No. Don't worry about it. Don't worry about it.
Leave it.
Yeah.
Next topic. Would you rather DNF on race day or not make it out of the garage during qualifying?
Not make it out of the cars qualifying. You can win from last. It's even better.
Yeah.
What one piece of racing memorabilia you would like to own, or you currently own, maybe?
Maybe one. I know like racing drivers keep a lot of their race cars. Like if I win Le Mans outright, one day hopefully keeping that car. But the problem is, it's 2 other drivers, right? And the team. Yeah, don't know how that one's gonna play out. And hopefully, if it ever happens, like that would be the coolest.
What team would you bring back from the dead in F1? Whether it's Lotus, BMW.
You know what? Actually, like Toyota.
Nice.
Because it feels like not Toyota,
Yeah.
Honda. Because every time they go in,
Yeah.
they pull out just before they're gonna win something.
Yeah.
Honda deserve to come back and actually gain the glory. Like they pulled out after 1 year of the success of Red Bull, and they just had another year they could have easily got. I mean, they're coming
now
back.
they are back
Yeah.
2026.
But them probably.
You get into F1 as a driver. Which team would you like to drive in?
Ferrari. I think that's the GOAT team, right?
Cool. Out of the current grid, who would you want as your teammate in F1?
Someone I was confident of beating.
Yeah.
To be honest. But like just pure. I mean, I'd love to have Max as a teammate or Lewis, one of the greats, to see what they're doing.
Yeah. Who would you not want as a teammate?
Someone really slow, actually. Yeah. Because I feel like you're not really progressing at that point if you're held
as
back.
a team,
you need two strong cars.
Yeah.
I don't want to name any names.
Yeah.
We're trying to get you
Yeah.
the deeds.
Most embarrassing moment you had in a race weekend?
I've got a good one. I did the Michelin Le Mans Cup Series, and that time it was just GTs before they had LMP3s, and it was supporting the ELMS calendar. and there was a race in Red Bull Ring, and there's a photo. You guys might be able to find it and pull it up. I don't know how you. And the team was really bad, and the safety car just came in. We're on a safety car. Safety car just came in. The top 3 came in, or 4, I think it was 5th. And I was like, well, great. I'm cycling to the lead. Just stay out. Everyone came in.
Oh no.
The accident was at T1. And I kind of hesitated, and I looked behind me, and the guy was also hesitating. So I just continued. So there's a photo of me just driving down the track on my own with all the cars in the pit lane. And I just driving there at safety car speed, shit, I'm gonna get in trouble for this. And then I just kind of came round, and they came out the pits, and I just sped up and slotted back into my spot, and was like, I hope no one realized. Got called up to the stewards. Luckily the call had come late to the teams, so we didn't get too much of a bollocking. But also the engineer just didn't say anything. I was kind of left to figure it out. I mean, in hindsight, people are coming in, going with them, but I was like, no, I'm gonna go to the lead. What are you talking about? You guys all want to pit? It's way before the pit window. But yeah, that was pretty embarrassing.
If you could have one superpower, what would it be?
I used to be obsessed with the idea of flying, but reading someone's mind, I feel like it's way better.
Yeah. If not racing, what do you think you'd be doing?
Something in sport, to be honest. If it was something not as an athlete or competing, something in sports science maybe, because I find that quite interesting. But ideally working somewhere in the sports industry.
What celebrity would be a good fit for racing?
Oh, I'd imagine some of the celebrities that already race, kind of. I would talk historically the celebrities that were great, your sort of Paul Newman, Steve McQueen. I'd actually want to share the car with him. I want to meet those guys,
Cool. And share a prediction for the F1 season coming up. Who do you think is going to win the constructors and drivers in your opinion?
I think it's going to be Red Bull dominated, to be honest. I think it'd be someone else to say otherwise. I think the interesting thing would be Mercedes versus Ferrari, maybe for second. It seems a shame that one car's going to dominate, but I don't know if it's bad for me to say, but I'm glad it's not going to be Mercedes. You got Mercedes out.
I'm not a fan.
No, but it's good for the sport to have someone else. But I think it's going to be difficult for anyone to beat Red Bull.
Perfect. So last question. You're writing an autobiography on yourself. Which one resonates with you the most? The daredevil, the dream catcher, the free spirit, the hardest worker, and I'm going to add a last one, the competitor.
Oh, the competitor probably. The competitor or the hardest worker.
Yeah.
The others just don't really sum me up.
Amazing. Well, thanks so much, Phil, for coming on. We always end with a simple question to our guest. Not really simple, but in 30 seconds, how do you want to be remembered? What sort of legacy do you want to leave behind?
Oh, I don't know. I mean, ideally the best. I'm young. I've still got a few years in me. Hopefully quite a few.
A lot more. Go
on.
Exactly.
Winning Le Mans outright a few times, hopefully. Nice. As a world champion, but then ultimately, as a person, just a nice guy, hard worker, fitness, better at cross country skiing than I am now, for sure. Maybe not super competitive because I think it can get quite annoying, but ultimately, a roundup of those things. First things first, I want to be remembered for winning and doing it a few times.
Perfect.
Hopefully.
And if people want to follow along with the journey this year, where can they follow you on?
Honestly, the only thing you can follow me on really is my Instagram, Phil Hanson Racing.
Perfect.
I definitely could be better on Instagram, but the content looks good. It's always photos are nice.
There you go. Amazing, guys. Go and give Phil a follow. We'll put the description in the show notes as well. If you guys have tuned in thus far, thanks so much for watching. Feel free to drop a review here. Check out the other episodes on tracklimitspod.com and give us a follow on social media. We'll see you in the next episode.